Hello. Today I've been tagged to do the Would You Rather uh, tag booktube edition, I guess, by Amy at From TheDustyBookshelf. Uh, Thank you. I'm drinking a lovely Moscato. A little bit of that while I film this. Very refreshing. Alright. First question. Would I rather read only trilogies or standalone novels? I would rather read standalones. Generally, that's what I read anyway. There are some books that I really enjoyed, some series, but if I'm just playing like literally the wording of the question, they aren't trilogies. They're more than three, so I would still read them. But yeah, I would rather read standalones because generally that's what I read anyway. Second question. Would I rather read only female authors or male authors? That's a tough one. I typically read mostly male authors, but I've been trying to read more female authors, and there are a lot that I really like. Edith Wharton's really good. I like her stuff. Ruth Ozeki is really good. I enjoy her work. I have on my shelf The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. I've heard she's great. Who else? Toni Morrison, great. Trying to think of someone else. I haven't read anything by Jane Austen that I really love, but I know she's really popular. So, question number 3. Would I rather shop at Barnes & Noble or shop at Amazon? So, I have a Barnes & Noble fairly close to my house. And I go there and I walk around, and I used to buy all my books there because there's not really another independent bookstore anywhere around here. But now I had a free Amazon Prime membership for being a student. That ran out, but it automatically renewed. It was like $50 for a year, and I get free 2-day shipping and whatever other things you get for being a Prime member, like access to different things. But yeah, free 2-day shipping, and they usually have better prices on Amazon than they do. Sometimes the prices are similar on Amazon and then BarnesandNoble.com, but in store, Barnes & Noble can't match Amazon's prices. And also, they do have a wider selection, so I can find what I want without. Especially, I've been reading a lot of like South American authors lately, and typically Barnes & Noble doesn't have any of their stuff. The only one that I've found is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and even that's really limited in what they have of his. It's like Love in the Time of Cholera and 100 Years of Solitude, and that's it. So that's a disappointment. Where am I at? Question 4. Would I rather all books become movies or TV shows? I'm going to split the difference, and this time I'm going to say this. If a book was going to be adapted, I would rather it be adapted into a TV show, but on HBO. Because the good thing about a TV show, where it's better for adapting novels, is that you have more time to develop characters and situations. The bad part is that the budget is way, way, way lower. So if you're adapting something that requires like a crazy set or is very expensive to produce, that's where you run into trouble. Which is why I think if you're going to do it like a Game of Thrones type thing, where the budget for those shows is very high, extremely high for television, but is very high, so the production quality is still very good. But you also get 10 hours a season to build characters and explore storylines, as opposed to 90 minutes, 2 hours, tops. So TV shows produced by HBO. or a network that can pour a similar amount of resources into their TV programming. Would I rather read 5 pages per day or 5 books per week? I would rather read 5 books per week. That's pretty easy. Simply because there are so many good books that I want to get to in my lifetime. And I know right now, if all I did was read for the rest of my life, I still wouldn't read everything that I want to read. Just because there's so much produced that it's impossible. But, it'd be better to read more than less. Would I rather be a professional reviewer or author? I would rather be an author, but I don't think I'm good enough. No. I don't know. I go back and forth. I've written a couple things. I'm not a huge writer for fun. I would rather be a reviewer, I think, simply because I enjoy reading stuff and discussing the merit of it. I mean, not in a snobby way, although I have been accused of being a book snob, and that's fine, whatever. You don't like my opinions, you don't have to. But I think it's very interesting, and I think that sometimes there are writers who are writers. That sounds confusing. But I was talking to my mom, for instance, and I said, like, Raymond Carver, for instance. Excellent writer. I enjoy his short stories quite a bit. But I think he might be more of a writer for people who appreciate writing for the sake of writing, how difficult it is to write a clean short story. He's a master of form more than a master storyteller, although I think he is a very good storyteller. But anyway, that was just an example, a poor one, but whatever. And I think that you need voices who, can call people on that as well, who say, who can have these different, who are outside of the writing process, who can comment on it. And it's a job for people who just want to get paid to read stuff. So yeah, sign me up for that. Let's see. Would I rather only read my top 20 favorite books over and over, or always read new ones that you haven't read before? I essentially do only read new ones that I've never read before. I hardly ever go back and reread. There are a couple books that I've reread, but for the most part, I'm always pushing on to new horizons. Because, like I said, there are more books written now than I can read in my lifetime. There are going to be more written over the course of my life that I'll want to read. So I'm always pushing on to new things. I try to the very special books to go back and reread. For instance, East of Eden I haven't reread, but I'm constantly thinking that I'm going to go back and reread that, and I plan to. Hemingway's works. Okay, aside from The Sun Also Rises, which I've read like 5 times, like A Farewell to Arms, For Whom the Bell Tolls, other works of his, I plan on going back and rereading. James Baldwin, his novels, as soon as I get through them. I've got 3 down. I'm working on the 4th of his 6 novels, although he has a lot of essay collections and poetry and plays and whatnot. I'll probably go back and reread some of those because they're spectacular. But yeah, I think I would only read new things because generally that's what I do anyway. Okay. Sorry. Oh, man. My phone keeps shutting off, so I can't see the questions. Would I rather be a librarian or a bookseller? I would rather be a bookseller. Mostly because it has always been a dream of mine to work in a bookstore, which is another grudge I have against Barnes & Noble. I've tried to work at the Barnes & Noble by me for years, and I apply all the time, and I'd be great at it, because I'm an alright salesman, but like I could direct people where they need to go, and I could definitely give them suggestions. And essentially, I know where everything's at in Barnes & Noble anyway, at least the one by my home. But I never even gotten an interview, which irks me a little. Only because I go in there and I see people who I know don't read and don't particularly care about books, other than the fact that it's a job, and they get jobs there, and that bugs me. But yeah, I would enjoy being a bookseller just because I like the idea of exchanging used books and bringing them in. and owning it. I like owning it so that I can set the rules and I can talk to people. I can do what I want versus working in a library where I'm not in charge. Also, I don't have to put people's... Well, you kind of do, I guess. Would I rather only read my favorite genre? Or every genre except my favorite? I would say my favorite genre, although my favorite genre, I guess, is literary fiction, which I don't even believe is a genre. That's kind of a bullshit genre. It doesn't exist because, what makes something literary fiction versus something else? Anyway, so, but if you're going to count that as a genre, that's what I would like to read instead of, everything else. Because I think I'd only be stuck with, like, Harlequin romance and, like, really bad sci-fi and really bad fantasy. If we're not going to count literary fiction, because I think the really good fantasy, like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, would be literary fiction. The really good sci-fi is going to be literary fiction, and really good romance novels would be literary fiction. So I'm just going to get stuck with the worst of everything, which I definitely don't want to do. Would I only read physical books or ebooks? Physical books. I don't read any ebooks. I got a Nook once, a couple years ago, and returned it because, and this is no judgment on people who use e-readers, but it didn't feel right. I felt weird. I need the book in my hand, the feel of it. And I don't know about you guys, but there are actually, like, physical copies of books where they just feel weird and I don't like them. And it does change my reading experience, even if I enjoy the words written in there. So anyway, I'll quit rambling now. So, yes, once again, thank you to Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf. From the Dusty Bookshelf. Whichever one of those is right. Because it sounds weird. Because I believe the full title is From the Dusty Bookshelf. So do I have to add the second from? Like from the Dusty Bookshelf? Or do I, if I say From the Dusty Bookshelf, is that right? Anyway. Yeah, thank you once again for tagging me. I'll quit talking because I can't think of anyone else to tag.